Whether you love it or hate it, the BMF title appears as if it's here to stay. And with the belt back on the line this weekend in Salt Lake City, we're counting down the top 10 BMFs in the UFC. A quick disclaimer before you guys have a hissy fit in the comments, we're only counting male fighters currently on the active roster. We're not including Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier since they're already fighting for the belt. And we're also leaving out the current champions, so this doesn't just turn into a pound-for-pound list. With that being said, if your favorite fighter didn't make the list, go ahead and rip us a new one in the comments. But without further ado, let's get into it. We're starting this list off with the Thunder from Down Under, the king of the shoey, it's Bam Bam Tuivasa. Besides being one of the few men on this planet with true one-punch power, what makes Tai a BMF is his willingness to stand right in the line of fire and try to put his opponent to sleep. We're talking about a guy who invited Derek Lewis to swing and bang and came out alive. Tai knows that his only real path to victory most of the time is to lure his opponent in and land a haymaker, and he will do whatever it takes to get that shot off, including pretending to be hurt. Of course, this strategy isn't 100% effective as he's currently on a 2-fight losing streak. However, even when he loses, he still manages to look pretty cool. I don't know if it was some sort of involuntary muscle spasm, but this guy was literally shaking his ass like a stripper while getting knocked out by Cyril Gane. And come on, he violently knocked out Greg Hardy and then chugged a beer above his lifeless corpse. What's not to love? Roundtree may not be a household name yet, but just give it time. This man is a brick shithouse with an upper body that looks like it was ripped straight from the pages of a comic book. But Khalil isn't just about the looks. He's one of the most lethal Muay Thai strikers the UFC has ever seen. His strikes are like sledgehammers, each one with the potential to end a fight. When Roundtree lets his fists fly, you better get your guard up quick or else you're getting dropped. What he does to guys on the ground is even scarier. Roundtree is one of the rare fighters with the balls and IQ to launch a soccer kick at a downed opponent. It's a risky move, but honestly, this one might be the most painful strike anyone has ever landed. But ironically enough, Roundtree's an incredibly soft-spoken guy with a heart as big as his biceps. If you aren't familiar with his name now, go watch the tape because Mr. Nice Guy is a bad man. A year ago, Khamzat may have been topping this list, but after his infamous 8-pound weight miss that turned UFC 279 into an absolute shit show, scrapping his main event with Nate Diaz and subsequently derailing his welterweight title hopes, his stock has dropped just a bit. But don't let the one setback fool you. Khamzat is still one of the baddest men in the game, boasting an unblemished record of 12 wins and no losses. The Chechen freight train has turned the octagon into his own personal playground, picking up his opponents and tossing them around like ragdolls however he pleases. He has elite wrestling, brutal ground and pound, and true one-punch power. And on top of that, he barely gets hit. Gilbert Burns was the only man capable of offering him a bit of resistance. Outside of that, he has walked straight through his opponents, then hopped on the mic to deliver some of the most horrifying promos in recent history.
But I come here for everybody! Kill everybody! I'm the champ! I'm the king! Get everyone! Ah!
With the Wolf finally scheduled to return against Paulo Costa this October, Brazilian chemists are scrambling to create an extra strength secret juice, as that's just about the only way you're going to stop him. It's only a matter of time until he's a UFC champion, but for now, he's number 8 on our list. Maybe there's a bit of recency bias here, but whether you love him or hate him, Dan is a fighter's fighter. Although the decision didn't go his way, Dan's battle with Dustin Poirier was a case study in grit and resilience. If that second round had been just 10 seconds longer, we might have seen Poirier on the wrong end of a nasty stoppage. And while he went on a bit of a skid after the Poirier fight, his recent war with Jalen Turner served to remind the world who Dan Hooker is. After breaking his arm midway through the second round, Hooker not only stayed in the fight, but managed to control the remaining round and half and secure the victory.
Did you break your arm at some point in the fight?
Just a scratch.
Dan loves a good scrap and is willing to fight the toughest guys under the brightest lights, so here's to the Hangman, we salute you. At number 6, we bring you the Russian wrecking machine, Sergey Pavlovich, currently riding a 6-fight first-round knockout streak with notable wins over Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa, and Curtis Blades. This guy has been doing more banging than Johnny Sins lately. And he's not just a brawler, he's got that Russian wrestling background we're all terrified of, but his fights just never make it past the first round, so we've never seen him use it. And his status as the new boogeyman of the division was pretty much solidified on the weekend when fellow surging contender Tom Aspinall chose to call out the winner of Ciro Gane and Sergey Spivak instead of the much more exciting and dangerous fight with Pavlovich. We love you, Tom, but that omission made clear that until someone beats him, Sergey Pavlovich is absolutely the heavyweight BMF. Straight out of Riverside, California, we've got the most unhinged man to ever step foot inside the UFC octagon. Sean Strickland is a self-described psychopath who claims he would be in prison or dead if it wasn't for fighting. And honestly, I agree. We're talking about the man who said it would be really funny to kill someone inside the octagon, not because he thinks murder is okay, but just because he thinks it would be cool. Strickland had a ridiculously tough upbringing and his attitude and style reflect it. This guy once asked Francis Ngannou to spar for 5 rounds in 10-ounce gloves so he could see how hard he hits. He trains like a caveman, sparring every single day, sometimes even against multiple opponents because you can't get CTE if you don't have a brain in the first place. But while he may be dumb, he is probably one of the toughest people on the earth. You don't usually celebrate someone for getting knocked out, but this man chose to stand and strike with Alex Pereira instead of wrestling his way to a title shot because he didn't want to take the easy way out. And the craziest part is that he says if he ever gets the rematch, he's gonna do the exact same thing. Strickland is a BMF in the classical Nate Diaz sense. His work inside the cage isn't extremely flashy, but when that door locks and he gets the psycho eyes, he's gonna walk forward until either you or him are sound asleep. Michael Chandler exists solely to entertain. Doesn't matter who he steps inside the octagon with or what his coach is game planned for, as soon as the cage door gets locked, he bites down on his mouthpiece and goes to war. And although he's only 2-3 in the UFC, those numbers feel irrelevant based on the entertainment he's provided. Each of his 5 fights within the organization have been nothing short of incredible, and you can easily point out moments in his 3 losses where if he had done things a little differently, the fights could have very well gone his way. His approach to combat is truly must-see TV, but it's never a one-sided onslaught. Chandler seems to love getting hit hard, smiling up at power punchers like Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, begging them for more. He absorbs punishment like some sort of sadistic sponge, refusing to back down until the final bell rings. And the way he manages to sneak a suplex into almost every fight is just beautiful. Chandler is the definition of a fan's fighter and someone we hope stays around for a long time. This man is pure entertainment, and for that reason, he's got the number 4 spot on our list, locked down. I honestly didn't believe this when I read it, but Kevin Holland is set to make his 18th UFC appearance this weekend. He debuted 6 years ago. That is ridiculous. In his UFC debut, Holland took on a prime Thiago Santos on short notice, and he was willing to face Khamzat Chimaev on just 1 day's notice after Khamzat missed weight. He's gone to war with some of the UFC's most dangerous men and always put on a show for the fans. He's the embodiment of anyone, anytime, anywhere.
At the end of the day, I'm an entertainer first and foremost, so I'm here to entertain you guys.
But his BMF status extends beyond the octagon. Holland is also a real-life crime fighter using his MMA skills to stop criminals on multiple occasions, including most recently when he apprehended an active shooter and likely stopped the tragedy from taking place. The most impressive feat of Holland's career so far was his remarkable run in 2020. Remember, this is a time when fights were getting canceled left, right, and center due to COVID, and Holland somehow managed to fight 5 times that year, winning all 5 bouts, with 4 of those wins coming by stoppage. Holland has broken bones inside the octagon, and he's been a part of some of the most exciting wars in UFC history. I hope to God this man is getting paid well because he is the definition of a company man, and that's why he's number 3 on our BMF list. Coming in an extremely close second place, the human wrecking ball Alex Pereira, who I'm pretty sure was engineered in a lab for the sole purpose of knocking people out. I mean, the guy looks more like an action figure than a human. He's famously put Izzy on the canvas not once but twice, something that no one else in the entire UFC has come relatively close to achieving. And his knockout of Sean Strickland was one of the most violent punches you will ever see. His left hook is undoubtedly the most lethal weapon in the UFC today. 8 fights into his MMA career, Pereira has already won a UFC title and began hunting down the now vacant light heavyweight belt. He's an emotionless, stone-cold killer with some of the nastiest knockout power of all time, and that's why we have him as the 2nd baddest motherfucker in the UFC right now. Before we reveal our number 1 pick, let's take a moment to appreciate the honorable mentions who barely missed out on our top 10. Corey Sandhagen, who has some of the most beautiful striking, a willingness to fight any style with any opponent, and the rare ability to scare off Dagestanis. Jan Blachowicz and his legendary Polish power, Tony Ferguson because it just feels wrong not to mention him, and Jeff Neal because he does not get anywhere near the respect he deserves. But without further ado, let's get to the moment you've all been waiting for. Number 1, CM Punk. Sorry, wrong video. Coming in at number 1 on our list, the baddest motherfucker in the entire UFC, it's none other than Max Blessed Holloway.
Be the best, you gotta beat the best, and the best is blessed, baby.
The living legend has forged a path of destruction with his relentless pace, technical brilliance, and an unyielding determination to emerge victorious. Throughout his illustrious career, Max has delivered some of the most brutal and memorable beatdowns in the history of combat sports. But it's not just about winning for him. He exudes an aura of superiority and toy-like control over his opponents. Imagine beating someone so badly that you felt the need to adjust their guard because their attempts at blocking punches were just pitiful. And of all people, he did this to Brian Ortega. And then there was the unforgettable showdown against Calvin Kattar, an encounter that defied the boundaries of brutality. For those unfamiliar with the world of MMA, Max Holloway is the fighter you proudly present as the epitome of the sport. He epitomizes toughness, he embodies speed, and he exemplifies the essence of an indomitable spirit. Every time he steps into the octagon, he delivers an unforgettable performance that captivates audiences worldwide. And that's why he comes in at number 1. So how'd we do? Let us know who we missed in the comments down below, and if you've ever wanted to see the worst injuries in the history of MMA, check out this video we just popped up right now.